Okay, so right now I would like to go over some of the bat kills you can do in stage 7-4. There are actually three strategies that you can consider using, but I'm probably going to put more emphasis on the later two because those are the most effective by far. The one in the middle is easier to do than the final strategy I'll bring up, but the last two strategies are definitely more efficient in terms of saving time than the first one by far. Okay, so we're coming up to what's probably the easiest of the three strategies, but it's probably also the slowest, especially if the bat just takes its sweet little time to wake up like it just did there. That didn't exactly go right. You're supposed to get all the bats in one shot on each fireball attack, so let me just do that again. So essentially what I do here is actually very simple. I just find a distance that I am comfortable with, and I usually like to measure it in these blocks because it's pretty easy to just count distances in terms of blocks. So I wait for the bat to come up and then I start opening fire. I like to put about a 1 block distance between me and the bat. And then here it's just a matter of looking at its animation frames so you can time all your fireball attacks. Every time the bat takes a hit, it will flap its wings up and down 4 times exactly, and then it will split into more bats. So it takes the hit here, flaps its wings up and down once, or more like down and up once, whichever. This is one animation cycle. And this is how I measure how many animation cycles I need to count to time my fireball attacks, because when it comes to also three strategies, I like to look at the bat's animation frames to help me time my attacks, because this is very precise. You need to be very precise with this, more so than the Trevor bat fight, because Alucard's fireballs will just disappear as soon as they touch something, so that gives you a very tight time window to actually hit the bat with. So it's already flapped its wings down and up once. Now it's done it twice. Now it's done it 3 times. So once it's done it its second time, or a second and a half time, I want to get my fireballs ready so that it will hit by the time it splits up, because there is a slight delay to Alucard's fireball attack. It does not come out instantaneously. So by the time it's already moves its wings up and down 4 times, the fireballs will come out and hit the bats. Then the counter starts over again. 1, 2, 3, then he shoots his fireballs again, 4, and then they get hit again. Repeat the process, but keep your eyes on the bats. You only have to shoot 4 sets of fireballs if you do it perfectly. And then just go in the door. And now here's the one that Baze86 had used in his world record run of 2611 before I beat it with a 2608. This is what he did, and I like this much more than the old strategy, and even more so than my newer strategy that I came up with before that, because this one is definitely easier to get. It's far less precise than what I figured out, but it's still a bit slower than the most optimal strategy possible. This one you use the bottom platform in the middle, not the top one, which requires you to jump and shoot, so it is definitely trickier than just staying on top of the platform, just staying on the ground and shooting. You can also opt to inch your way closer to the bat as you're fighting it after you do your second attack, because by then it'll be small enough that it won't just really knock you backwards, and then just cost you a good fight. And now to zero in on this one a bit more. First things first, if you take either Baze's strategy or my newer strategy, regardless of which of those two you take, you will eliminate the downside of having to maybe wait for the bat to fly up to the top platform, because both his and my strategy involve you using the bottom platform. Both are trickier, but his is easier. So as a cue as to when to do the first jump and attack, you want to do your first attack as you start to lose jump height, but you want to do your first jump once the third note of the boss theme starts playing. Note number 3 plays, so you do your jump there. And he shoots fireballs as soon as he starts to lose jump height. This is the ideal way to actually make sure your fireballs are as closely aligned to the bat as possible, so the middle fireball will touch the middle of the bat, and if you have 2 fireballs, will likely connect with the bat, making it easier and more likely you'll get the perfect kill. And for your second jump and attack, you'll want to do that as soon as you're done landing from your first jump. But for the third and fourth, that's where the tricky part comes in. So I'm going to need to just play frame by frame again. So here we start counting cycles of the bat's animation again. And I think after 2 you want to do a jump and then shoot some more fireballs as it starts to lose height from that jump. So 1, 2. So after those fireballs are done shooting and they land and hit the bat, you'll want to wait for 2 of those animation frames from the bat. Once it's flapped its wings up and down twice, you'll want to do your second jump. Maybe even a bit earlier than that. That could also work. And again, as you lose jump height, you shoot your fireballs. I don't even know if this will help. You may just have to actually do it numerous times yourself just to get the feel for it. And for the last set of bats and the last jump and fireball attack, you actually have to wait a bit longer than you did for the third one. I don't exactly know why. So after about 2.5 animation frames, or 3, of the bats flapping their wings up and down, a total of 2.5 to 3 times, you do your last jump and your last fireball attack. Again, at the peak of your jump, you shoot the fireballs. And ideally, those 4 attacks should be enough to kill all the bats. So you pretty much, for the most part, stay in that one spot the whole fight. And then there is by far the hardest strategy, because if you go for it, you'll have to make a very precise jump where you're not too far away from the middle ledge, so that you just miss the jump entirely, and not too close to the bat, so you just jump into it and lose your kill. So you fly out here. For the first 2 attacks, you stay on this rightmost ledge. So for this strategy, you fly out here. For the first 2 attacks, you stay on the rightmost ledge. So for this strategy, you fly out here, and for the first attack, you stay on the rightmost ledge. And on the second, you have to jump up and shoot your fireball at just the right time, so that it hits the bat before you actually hit the ledge, because if it's any later, then the bat's just going to hit you and knock you off the ledge. You could probably turn back into a bat yourself to save yourself from taking a death, but you'll lose so much time from that it won't even be worth it. And then it's going to be very similar to the base setup for the third and the fourth fireball attacks. Just jump and shoot until the bat's dead. But you also have to be careful to not fall off the ledge that you're on, because you just barely land on it. While this strategy is by far the closest I've managed to get Alucard to the door by the time the boss fight was over, it's also the hardest. Again, what you want to do is by the time the third note in the intro that the boss theme plays, you jump and shoot again. But you don't want to hesitate too long, and quickly just go, and as soon as you take your jump for the second fireball attack, you have to make sure you're shooting your fireballs just after you take that jump, because if you're any later, you will just hit the bat and you'll lose your strategy. So you take this jump from about here. You don't want to be too far from the ledge, because if you jump, you could just miss it. And you don't want to be too close, because you could just jump into the bat if you're too close, no matter how well timed your second attack is. So position about here. Take a jump from this spot. Have his foot be at least all the way off the block when you're doing your jump. And as soon as you start this jump, you have to shoot your fireballs to hit the bat. So I've pressed the button to shoot the fireballs by now, but there's still a slight delay before they actually shoot. This is why you have to get it as early as possible. So he'll shoot them on his way up the jump, and before the bat can actually hit you, the fireballs will just hit it as you hit the ledge. You will hit the ledge just barely. The fireballs will connect with the bat so that they won't knock you back, and that will split it up to make it smaller. Small enough that you can just stand here and kill the bat just by doing 2 more jumps and shoots. It's similar to Baze's strategy from this point onward, but you might have to just wait a bit later on average for each of these attacks because you are right next to the bat in this case. So just keep an eye on the bat's animation frames. About 2.5 to 3 for each of the 2 last fireball attacks. You jump, and then again, as you lose jump height, or at the apex of your jump, you shoot more fireballs, and if you've done it right, the bats will die. Good luck doing that strat in the real run, though.